United States Military Academy at West Point. My dad always told me that there is no greater honor than to teach people who wear the uniform of the armed forces of the United States. When I was 21, I became an American citizen. I took an oath affirming that I would protect and defend the Constitution and serve the nation. I have done so. Although I have never worn the uniform myself, for almost 30 years I have taught and advised senior officers of the United States military, mostly Marines. I have taught dozens of generals and thousands of senior officers and NCOs, as well as senior members of each of the other armed services. Almost all this teaching has been on a pro bono publico basis. It's my form of national service. Most of my career has been a form of overcompensation for being inarticulate and powerless as a child. For 20 years, I worked for some of the top communication consulting firms, advising and representing companies and leaders in the public square. Since 2002, I've owned and run a crisis management and leadership communication consulting and coaching firm. Our work helps leaders become more effective by harnessing their own power with humility and empathy, building trust by connecting meaningfully with others. I've written 4 books about how to use the power of communication for good. I have also deployed my gifts to help members of marginalized communities protect themselves. I served as a faculty member, and board chair of a progressive seminary preparing religious leaders to counter oppression. I spent 14 years on the board of Freedom to Marry, which successfully created the conditions that led to both majority public support and Supreme Court affirmation of gay couples' legal right to marry. I have spent 13 years on the board and 3 as board chair of Interfaith Alliance, which, among other things, helps promote and protect America's religious pluralism and protect at-risk religious communities. And I've spent 19 years advising and 7 years on the board of international trustees of Religions for Peace, the largest multi-religious organization in the world. Religions for Peace helps leaders of religious communities around the world harness the moral authority of their faith traditions to prevent violence, transform conflict, and provide sustainable development. Since 1988, I have been an adjunct associate professor of management and communication in the School of Professional Studies at New York University. Since 2003, I have also been an adjunct professor of management at NYU's Stern School of Business Executive MBA program. Since 2017, I've been an adjunct associate professor of professional development and leadership at Columbia University's Fu Foundation School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. For 20 years, I've been a contract lecturer in leadership communication at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. And for 8 years, I've been a contract lecturer at the United States Defense Information School, teaching senior military officers about the drivers of trust. In my teaching and research, I study patterns that help leaders enhance competitive advantage, build trust and loyalty, and change the world for the better. I study the patterns of audience engagement and audience reaction. I study persuasion and influence and the power of language to change people, mostly for the better. But I've also been acutely aware of the use of communication to hurt, to harm, and to humiliate, and of how dehumanizing and demonizing language can lead some people to commit acts of violence. I typically don't teach those things in a classroom, but I often send up a flare warning students, former students, and others of the predictable, if unintended, consequences of speech that, under the right conditions, can influence people to accept, condone, and commit violence against members of a group. I have found myself sending up many flares in the past few years, but my concern grew into alarm as the 2018 midterm elections approached and as President Trump's language crossed a line.